Hello, I'm Wayne Adkins. For the moment, First Lieutenant Wayne Adkins. On July 18, 2006, Lieutenant General H. Stephen Blum, Chief of the National Guard Bureau, lumped atheists and agnostics together with bigots, and in a paraphrase of an old untrue negative stereotype, declared that there are no atheists in foxholes. It is ironic that such a bigoted remark would come during his speech to the NAACP about diversity in the military. The National Guard admitted to MSNBC that it had received a number of letters complaining about his remarks, and several atheist organizations denounced them. But the Army, despite how it defines unlawful discrimination in its own regulations, has decided that the remarks were not discriminatory. I disagree. Blum's remarks are just the tip of the iceberg. Since troops have been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan in recent years, there have been numerous bigoted remarks made by military chaplains and other officers disparaging atheists and perpetuating the myth that there are no atheists in foxholes. Some have gone as far as claiming that atheists are lesser soldiers than their religious counterparts. For instance, Chaplain Scott McCammon said, "You can know how to dig a foxhole, but unless you are spiritually fit, you won't have the courage to stick your head out of the hole." Chaplain Eric Albertson said, "Commanders recognize that spiritually fit soldiers are better fighters and can bring a spirit of determination to the mission that is courageous and heroic." When soldiers complain about remarks like these, they are ignored, despite the fact that Army regulations prohibit such remarks. Army Regulation 600-20, Section 6-2, Paragraph A says, "The U.S. Army will provide EO and fair treatment for military personnel and family members without regard to race, color, gender, religion, or national origin, and provide an environment free of unlawful discrimination and offensive behavior." The Army has failed miserably at providing an environment free of offensive behavior for atheists. The regulation defines several terms in these sections which make it clear that the public comments of Blum and others constitute unlawful discrimination. Disparaging terms are defined in the regulation as terms used to degrade or connote negative statements pertaining to race, color, gender, national origin, or religion. Claiming that there are no atheists in foxholes implies that they do not serve at all, which is patently false, or that they all really do believe something other than what they say. It implies that all atheists are liars and cowards. That certainly constitutes making negative statements about an entire group of people based solely on their religious identification. The first response given when atheists complain is that atheism isn't an organized or acknowledged religion. Therefore, atheists are not covered by the regulation. But the regulation defines the term religion as a personal set or institutionalized system of attitudes, moral, or ethical beliefs and practices. The regulation's definition of religion includes a personal set of beliefs. It does not require organization or outside acknowledgement. The regulation also defines prejudice as a negative feeling or dislike based upon a faulty or inflexible generalization, that is, prejudging a person or group without knowledge of facts. Remarks like the ones addressed certainly qualify as prejudice by the regulation's definition. Claiming that there are no atheists in foxholes is both a faulty and inflexible generalization. On August 19, 2006, I submitted a formal equal opportunity complaint on NGB Form 333 to the Ohio National Guard State EO office. It was forwarded to the National Guard Bureau EO office, and they signed for it on August 22nd. They then sat on it for 7 weeks. It was supposed to be forwarded to the Department of the Army Inspector General's office because it named a general officer, but they sat on it until I called the Department of the Army Inspector General's office to find out the status of it. They told me they never received it. When they called the State EO office, they found it had been sent to NGB EO a few days after I filed it. When they called the NGB EO office, the NGB EO had to contact the state and ask them to send another copy of it. They either lost it or they tossed it. This is not how formal EO complaints are supposed to be handled in the military. Not at all. Once they were forced to deal with the complaint, they tried to dissuade me from going forward with it by asking me if I would resubmit it if I still wanted to proceed with this. They said it wasn't signed, did not state how I was harmed, and did not suggest a remedy, all of which were untrue. I again sent them a copy of the complaint via snail mail to verify that it had been signed and did contain the information requested. After again waiting for several weeks, I was told over the phone that despite the fact that I was supposed to receive a written response to my formal EO complaint, none was coming. I had been courtesy copied on an email which indicated that the NGB and the DA wanted to keep this as quiet as possible, but I expected that they would at least follow procedure and send me a response. Instead, I was told that to obtain any documents pertaining to the formal complaint, I had to request it through the Freedom of Information Act. I did. Once I received the complaint review memorandum, the discussion paragraph said it all. Though perhaps insensitive, Lieutenant General Blum's remarks regarding atheists did not rise to a level that violated a standard. Well, this is contrary to every single EO brief and annual requirement that I've ever heard. With any other group, we are told that if a reasonable person is offended by your behavior or remarks, you have violated the standard. Had the same remarks been made about any other group, the results would have been different. For instance, if a chaplain had said that there are no Jews in a foxhole, implying that they really do believe what more spiritually fit soldiers believe, the punishment would have been swift and harsh. The implications are exactly the same, only the group identified is different. So it turns out that the problem, which I had thought was limited to the unfortunate remarks of a few isolated bigots, is really a systemic problem. It's cultural. It's institutional. The Army has not only failed at their stated goal of providing an environment free of offensive behavior, they have perpetuated it. They are nurturing it. Instead of punishing bigotry, the Army uses your taxpayer money to publish these bigoted remarks by Army officers in Army publications and on the Department of Defense websites. They use their digital video imagery distribution system to transmit remarks from bigoted chaplains overseas back to the U.S. and post them on the DBID's website so other publications can pick them up. Worst of all, when soldiers complain about disparaging remarks made about them solely on the basis of religion, when commissioned officers and supposed leaders call them liars, cowards, and lesser soldiers simply because they lack a belief in the supernatural, the Army looks the other way and disregards its own regulations designed to prevent religious discrimination. I can no longer be a part of an organization that denies my service in combat, ignores discrimination complaints by soldiers, violates its own regulations, and protects bigots. I'm resigning my commission as an officer in the Ohio Army National Guard, effective as soon as possible. I want to thank those soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who have contacted me since I posted my resignation on the web. I appreciate your support, and I want to assure you that by leaving the military, I'm not leaving the fight against discrimination. As an officer, there's only so much that I can say and do. I've exhausted the formal complaint process within the military. I am considering a congressional complaint, but there are conditions which would have to be met before I initiated one. I would encourage you to file formal complaints yourself when this kind of discrimination occurs again. And sadly, it will, due to the Army's unwillingness to enforce its own regulations. I first enlisted as a private in the infantry back in 1985, and I can tell you, nothing has changed since then. Speak up for yourselves, because the military is not looking out for you.